welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me all over the place at Hawk Blogger, and today you can find me still at the NFL Combine here in Indianapolis, and we've got one of our favorite guests. He's almost our favorite guest. He's rising up the ranks. Ryan Fowler of the Draft Network, here in person, in the flesh. Good to see you, dude. And we've got Nathan Ernst, our co-host, who I think is still awake. Are you managing to stay conscious?
I got some really funky tasting coffee from the media room, so I'm okay.
You sure it's coffee?
I'm actually not sure.
You know, we last night went out to get pizza at a place that had been recommended by Seattle beat reporters who've been coming here for years, both for games and for the Combine. And you know, there was some excitement, some anticipation. It was like one of the worst pizzas I've had.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. I'm not going to out the people who recommended it. I'm not going to out the place. But we found our bad food for the first time here. So we're going to have to do better for Nathan tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible because we were sitting there and Brian is loudly talking about how bad the pizza is.
Letting everybody know, Brian.
Everyone know. And then Grant comes. I got a great view of Grant shoving a sandwich in his mouth right now. And so I'm sure Grant got a little extra something special on his pizza after he ordered it. There was some loud conversation about how terrible the pizza was.
That implies there was anyone in the restaurant to hear me saying that. Ryan, where'd you go for food last night?
Last night actually ended up at Kilroy's.
Okay.
Common spot here in Indy.
Solid.
Bar food is okay, but the Indy scene for bar food is actually not bad. And there's also a good spot, agave and rye.
Agave and rye.
If you're interested in tacos, margaritas, kind of Mexican type of vibe, some of the best tacos I've ever had in my entire life.
Well, so I've put Nathan in charge of dinner. I've heard about a deli for lunch that we're talking about that apparently all the teams go to for sandwiches. So we might try that. But this is what everyone comes here to find out about is where we eat and how our experience has been. Ryan, what do you come here for?
These guys that we're listening to, guys that are working out, see these guys in person, right? I think the biggest thing for me with this process is learning who these young men are right behind the face mask. We see a lot of these guys year after year after year as far as tape. But who are these young men as far as these GMs to where, it's great looking at 2025. Can we get these guys on second contracts moving into the next 4 or 5 years? So that's the biggest thing for me, getting to know all these players here that are in India.
So we talked to quarterbacks, wide receivers today, some running backs. Anybody that kind of changed your opinion or solidified your opinion of them that you heard today?
Very impressed with Tyler Shuck, quarterback from Louisville, as well as Jackson Dart, as well quarterback from Ole Miss. You know, these are guys that potentially down the road or maybe even the next year or so may be faces of a franchise. And for Tyler's perspective, as far as a mature quarterback under center, 3 different stops in his career, the production for me at Louisville this year was, I have a D2 grade on Tyler Shuck. I had one back in December. So he's just someone that I really enjoyed getting to know in this process, seeing him speak today. He's just a young man that's going to go into meeting rooms with teams, and you can't help but be impressed. And today,
he's going to be pretty disappointed with the 2 grade. He said today that he's the number 1 quarterback in the class.
To hear that.
I am learning about Tyler Shuck. One of the most impressive things that I saw at the Senior Bowl came from Tyler Shuck, and it was not a pass. It was not a run. It was catching a wayward snap. It was off to one side. He didn't even look at the ball. One-handed it. It was off the center. He spun it around in his hand, got the laces, and just kept dropping back and threw it. You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Just making it work, right? Because in Mobile, look at the quarterbacks. I mean, Jalen Milroe was on the talk. Jackson Dart came out of there saying he's a first-round pick. Personally, I do not see that. I still don't see that.
Yeah.
Jalen Milroe down in Mobile, he's going to impress here. He's going to. I believe he's going to throw here this week, and he's going to test well. He looked the part. He's going to kill the interview process. But overall, as far as my best quarterback does in Mobile, that impressed me most was Tyler. And he just continues to check boxes for me, which is ultimately the goal, not only for myself, but for teams around the league.
One of the things that, as I'm getting to learn a little bit more about him, he mentioned was that he had a lot more designed runs at his previous stops. Talk about him as a runner. What does he bring to the table as a runner?
I think that's a big thing for a lot of quarterbacks, going into the NFL today, is you got to have that floor. right, under center. And I think with Tyler, it's where all the attention for him is as a pocket passer, right? That's what he was recruited to be, what he was at Oregon and at Texas Tech as well. But what he did at Louisville is expanding a playbook. Now, he's not Lamar Jackson. No, there were no comparisons to Lamar Jackson or Jaden Daniels. But when you look at what he can do under center and, again, expand that playbook and what we even saw in Mobile, I'm not asking him to be a guy that has QB counter and QB power, but be able to make guys miss, keep your eyes upfield. That's something that I've seen consistently Tyler Shuck do.
And he's fearless, too,
Correct.
when he decides to run.
Yeah.
He's a big dude. I was really impressed listening to him. So, yeah, his actually audio is up on patreon.com/talkblogger if you want to listen to that podium session. There's a bunch of the QB stuff up there. Jalen Milrose up there. I think Will Howard's up there. One of your colleagues, Justin, reported that a wide receiver has had a formal interview with the Seahawks. And Nathan, you listened to his session today, Mr. Knoll.
Oh yeah. He's cool. He was real professional. He was somebody that actually I had talked to Jaden Higgins too earlier, and Higgins had called him out as a leader on the team. Some that he's buddy with. So beyond just like the speed and what he shows on tape, there seems to be some character and stuff behind him. So yeah, I enjoyed talking to him today.
He's a leader. He's a leader, you know, and you know what you're going to get from those Matt Campbell type of guys. Jaden Higgins, I really like. Jalen's kind of that guy that's lived a little bit behind the curtain a little bit, I feel like, because Jaden's this big physical guy, that modern-day X on the outside. But Jalen's going to be someone that can be inside and out. And also, with these new kickoff rules and punt return as well, I think he's not going to be afraid, if he has to cut his teeth on special teams as well, which ultimately increases his value.
Why'd you choose Jalen Knoll to listen to before we knew that he had met with the Seahawks?
Just a guy I'd watched and I really liked. Watching both him and Higgins, and I think I kind of prefer Knoll over Higgins and just his speed and everything. And that's something that we've talked about with the Seahawks, is finding some fast guys for them and stuff like that. So I think he's a cool spot for them.
Speaking of speed, one of the first guys you mentioned to me when you came on was Ernst.
Oh yeah.
And he is in the running for potentially being the fastest guy here at the Combine, and everyone was pressing him about that. Listened to him today. I was impressed to listen to him. A little soft-spoken, and he's a track guy that has moved football. And one of the things that stood out to me at the Senior Bowl was not necessarily on the field, but that everyone's talking about his speed, but he had one of the fastest decelerations. So I talked to him about that a little bit and had some good answers there. One of the best answers he had was I asked him about Tate Ratledge, a teammate, and he spent a lot of time talking about how Tate Ratledge is his dog, and that Tate Ratledge is a guy that he will check on everybody every day. And he's a guard like we haven't talked as much about, but I'm curious, what's your take on Tate Ratledge?
Yeah, I do want to talk about Ernst.
We will come back. Real quick
on Ernst. Just I would be very shocked if he's not the fastest guy here. I know Isaiah Bond said he's going to run maybe 4.1.
Jaden Blue said 4.1 too.
I'd be very shocked. Isaiah Bond breaks the Xavier Worthy's record, bottom line. But no, Tate Ratledge, I remember talking to Michael Williams this week as well, and he said, who's the best lineman you've ever faced, whether it's in a game or a practice? He said Tate Ratledge. Just someone that flat out gets after people along the front. And it's just, you want a bully along the offensive line, that is going to be Tate Ratledge.
Is he a guy is he a mover? Like someone in his own blocking scheme, outside zone scheme? Would he make sense in that kind of scheme?
Yeah, I think when you look at him right now, I'd probably classify him as more of a power guy that wants to live on that vertical plane right now. But I think he is absolutely someone that showed at Georgia to where their scheme has even adjusted the last few years with a guy like Trevor Etienne behind them this year that wants to get outside. I think he's absolutely someone that can engage at the first level and then work his way up to linebackers and seal.
What day do you think he goes?
Tate's a day 2 guy. He's a day 2 guy. If he gets out of there, then someone's getting a heck of a steal in this class. Just know what you're going to get. In this class, for me, I'm trying to find guys that have high floors. We don't have a lineman like Joe Alt this year where I know exactly what I'm getting. I know I like Donovan Jackson. I told you about Donovan Jackson.
Yeah.
But guys on day 2, you're looking for more players, more depth, and more value. Tate Ratledge is a guy, he's going to be a starter, I believe, right away somewhere.
Are people saying that his microphone's
too
low?
Quiet, yeah.
All right, you just turn it up a little bit. We should be good. Can you hear it?
Can you guys hear me now? Go a little closer. Maybe
We'll find out if
you guys can hear me.
let us know. And Nathan, feel free to turn it up if people say no. It's fine for now. But Nathan, first time going in and watching the testing.
Yeah.
It's a different experience maybe than most people expect it to be.
It was a little underwhelming, unfortunately. I think it's definitely something. The TV product is better. Like a lot
so
of sporting
much
events.
better.
Yeah. And so, I mean, a lot of what we're doing there is like you get to watch it, and we're close enough to the 40 and stuff that it's fun to do. But then you're immediately turning up and looking at the big screen and watching the NFL Network and trying to get the time and everything. So, but it's cool to be able to just see all the players and try to watch them like interact and get that kind of vibe for it. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely to me about getting to talk to him here and less about getting to go actually watch him in the stadium.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully the NFL learns how to market this thing in the future.
Yeah.
You know, last night it was 9:30, 10 o'clock before those LBs stepped off the field.
Yeah.
40s are fun, seeing what they did in the vert and broad and some of the positional drills for certain guys. Like a healthy Nick Martin from Oklahoma State. You know, I gave him a first-round grade back in May.
Wow.
Personally, for myself. When he's healthy, I think he's one of the premier athletes in this class. And one of the craziest clips I've ever seen of any player in this class or even last few years. You know, 2023 Big 12 title game, Nick Martin chasing Xavier Worthy down from 20 yards of depth. That is one of the craziest things I've ever seen on tape from a player, especially the guy like Xavier Worthy's speed at the linebacker position and in the ways in which the position continues to evolve in today's game. That's a player that Nick Martin, he's not going to go on day one, but I personally am going to stick with that round one evaluation.
He had a great 40 yesterday, definitely. And I'm curious, like, you and I, we talked about Shamar Stewart, and obviously now everyone's talking about Shamar Stewart.
Yeah.
Not that we were the only people, but what a day. What a day.
And these Texas A&M guys, even Nick Scourton, you know, lost weight, and the things that they were asked to do this year in the tight fronts that they ran down at A&M, to where first things first, they were asked to stop the run instead of flat out getting after the passer, pinning your ears back, like we've seen with guys even in the past, like a Jared Verts or even a Braden Fisk from the same school. So when I watch Shamar, the athletic profile is there. The production, of course, has not been there, but all it takes is one coach to look at him and say, I can get him right. You know, and I think the traits are off. It's just outstanding with Shamar Stewart. I don't want to put him in that Tyree Wilson category from Texas Tech a couple of years ago that went to the Raiders and has not been able to figure it out. But I think he will figure it out because I think he's someone that's going to hone his craft and someone that works his tail off to be the best he can be.
Well, it sounds like the mic issue is still there, so we're going to do this. We're going to switch you.
All right.
We're going to share this bad boy, and people will be able to hopefully hear you a little bit better.
I don't remember Wilson testing as well as Stewart did.
Oh, he did not, but just as far as the physical frame.
Yeah.
He's an impressive dude, first guy off the bus type of player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now everyone's putting Shamar Stewart's numbers up against Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
That seems a step too far.
Very far.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Don't care if he continues to play or hangs him up right now. Well, these comparisons, it's always fun. You know, even last year with Jaden Daniels, right? It was Lamar Jackson. But it's okay to be a Justin Fields. It's okay to be Jalen Hurts. It's okay to be guys in this league that are starters, a lot of different positions. You know, you're not hearing, even from Mason Graham, he's a Dexter Lawrence, or he's this, he's that. I think he could possibly be that. But it's also okay for even a guy like a Tyleik Williams or an Aeneas Peebles to be the guys like Kenny Clark in the world, to be guys that are just really good players in the NFL for a long time.
Somebody compared Danielle Hunter's college production to Shamar Stewart's, saying he's another guy that didn't have a lot of production in college. Do you think that's a fair comparison?
I mean, when I look at both guys, I think when you look at the measurables and the height, weight, that's fine. As far as the production,
It's not that they're similar players, but like, is it possible that someone can have that little production in college and then turn into a highly productive NFL player?
I think it'd be in a perfect world, you know, for these GMs. They want to see guys that they check all the boxes as far as production, height, weight, speed, length. He hasn't checked the production box in the SEC, but I think when you look at the history of guys that have even come out of Texas A&M, like a Myles Garrett or even his teammate Nick Scourton this year, I think Shamar is a guy for me. I'm not really looking at the production. I'm looking at the projectability of what he can be, because I don't think he's the best player that he can be right now. His best football, I think, is 2-3 years down the road.
Nathan, anyone you talked to today that kind of got your attention?
Well, I mentioned Jadon Blue. He's going to run a 4.1. That definitely got my attention.
It's all the Texas guys, right?
Yeah.
They're going to run 4.1.
Yeah. And another Texas guy. I actually liked listening to Quinn Ewers today. He's not my favorite guy on tape, but you know, he's a dude that's gone through a ton of stuff at Texas, and he was really open about it, and he was really chill about it, and you know, I thought he had really good answers around all that. He didn't seem bitter. He didn't seem like, you know, I don't know. He came across just really good. So I liked listening to him today. Those were two guys that definitely stood out for me, I think.
Yeah, he talked about his mental resiliency a lot today, which was nice, and what he learned from Ohio State, what he learned at Texas. And Of course, all the attention at Texas this year was how short is the leash on Quinn, and when are we going to see Arch Manning? That's what everybody was focused on. But I think for Quinn, for me, I probably wouldn't touch him until day 3. It's actually crazy to say now. A year ago this time, we were talking about Quinn as probably a top 10 pick lock. It's not going to happen. But I think with Quinn, as far as a guy that's been through the mud a little bit, I like that. And it also kind of transfers to a guy like Kyle McCord from Syracuse, where it wasn't good at Ohio State. Goes to Syracuse. A lot of guys around him that are going to be drafted this year. 4 guys specifically: Rondé Gadsden, Trevor Pena, Jackson Meeks, and LaQuinn Allen. All those guys are probably going to hear their names called. So those 2 guys, Ewers and McCord, as far as players that have been through the mud a little bit at the quarterback position and evolved their skill sets, were impressive to me.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to listen to McCord. I did listen to Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
Thought he was impressive. He did mention that he had met with the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And, this is a guy that, if you're talking day 2, I think is an interesting player. We've heard great things about him from his teammates, and he certainly sounds the part. His tape is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with that. I'd rather not be the second round, but that's probably where you'd have to spend a pick to get him. I think it's looking like the Seahawks, if they really want a quarterback and they want one of these guys, a day 2 guy, making me think they're really going to try to trade back in the first to pick up another pick either in the 3rd or in the 2nd round, because I'm not sure I can see them spending one of their first 2 picks at 18 and 50 on a quarterback, but I think that's what they'd have to do at this point.
Yeah, I don't think they need to go Jackson Dart in the 2nd round, to where we don't see a lot of guys go in the 2nd, other than your Will Levises of the world. So for me, we talked about Tyler Shuck, we talked about Kyle Ford, some of these other guys, even a guy on day 3 late, Max Brosmer from Minnesota. I've been very impressed with his process going from New Hampshire at the FCS level to the Big Ten. Those are guys that I think in Seattle, to where I think you can groom a young player. I don't think you need to take and prioritize a Jackson Dart when you have some of these other guys lower down the board, where for me, I don't have a separation of tier.
What are you hearing? Anything around Seahawks, players that have met with them? Anything that, rumors or things that we should know about?
With the Seahawks, so far, everything that I do have is going to be on my X,
Okay.
underscore Ryan Fowler, if you guys don't follow me there already. But and I'll be honest with you, off my head, I can't think of 5 to 10 guys that really pop.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that go around this week, Brian, as you know, to where I'm focused on this guy and this guy and this guy. So it's just right now, anything that's going to be that I have personally on the Seahawks is going to be on my socials.
What are you thinking? What are you hearing relative to just general players? Any rumors or things that have come up for you?
Absolutely. Tator McMillan, I would not be surprised he slips, to the 20s on T-Mac. 2 names to watch on day 1: Mason Taylor, the tight end from LSU, and Carson Schweschinger as well, the linebacker from UCLA as well. There's a lot of buzz around both those players' names. Teams absolutely have fallen in love with Carson's ability. I'm not going to compare him to Jack Campbell, where he went on day 1. It was a bit of a surprise when Detroit took him a couple years ago. But teams just envision him as this modern-day green dot in the middle of their defense. Jahad Campbell's going to be the first linebacker / edge off the board. But Carson Schweschinger is a name. As far as rumors, this week here in Indy, keep an eye on him.
I feel like this is the most slashed draft I can remember.
Yes.
The amount of tackles / guards, guards / centers / tackles, defensive tackles / edges. I've never heard as many, especially off-ball linebacker / edge.
Yep.
That is a new hybrid, right?
Yeah, it's really the modern game.
Yeah.
It really is. You just look at position versatility along the front 5. You look at running backs. Can you be a 3-down back? Usually it used to be, hey, can I bring in a guy and be a 3rd down back in space? Now it's, I need you to be an RB within the tackles on 1st and 2nd down. And I also need you to pick up a linebacker through the A-gaps on 3rd down. It's being these hybrid types of players, even with safeties nowadays, like a Jahdae Barron, where he's played safety, he's played nickel, he's played perimeter corner. You're just going to draft him to be a good football player in a day and age where versatility really is king.
Well, like J.J. Pegues taking fullbacks, snaps, defensive tackle.
And he looked good.
And then you've got Jalen Conyers, tight end, fullback, like wildcat. Like, it seems like there is just a plethora of these hybrids this draft. And the question always is with hybrids is, are they graded one of them? And I think that's the question with Travis Hunter, like Nathan, you kind of brought up the other day.
Yeah, and I think it puts a ton of stress on coaching staffs too, because you gotta have a plan for these guys, right? right? It's not just like, oh, he's a 3-tech, or oh, he's this, or oh, he's that. Like, these are guys who have done a lot of different things, and they're not always the most polished at anything. And so, like, you need to know, okay, what does this guy really do, and how can I use it in my scheme and all that. So I think it really it puts a lot more on the coaches to get the most out of these guys.
Yeah, I think a big thing with all these players too is, you hear a lot of conversations as far as, does this guy go here? Does this guy go here? It's all about situation with a lot of these guys. You look at receivers. If you end up in a situation like, say, Kansas City, of course, you're going to be in a great situation no matter what your skill set is to be elevated because you're with a Patrick Mahomes. So it's all about correlating surroundings. For some of these positions, look at corner, look at safety. Those guys, their success sometimes is pretty linear. But the correlating positions are so big for me in this class, whether it's I'm talking about Sator McMillan or Luther Burden, or guys like we talked about with Jalen Noel, or even back to a LeJontay Wester or the Jacoby Georges from Miami of the world. If you find yourself in a good situation, usually your skill set to what you are can be elevated.
Any of the testing results that jumped out to you guys yesterday, other than obviously the Smart Stewart kind of stuff?
Aeneas Peoples continues to impress me. He's not going to someone he didn't blaze yesterday. I believe he had 4.95, whatever it was. It was probably the fastest 4.95 I've ever seen in my life. The way he was chugging along that 40, but I can't say enough good things about him and really this entire interior defensive line class. I feel like every single day, just as in the weeks past here, there's another name that pops up, whether it's a C.J. West from Indiana, who I've liked since early portions of the fall. I talked about Aeneas. Ty Hamilton from Nebraska is a big physical type of player as well.
I thought that was one of the guys that he stood out in Mobile as well. Interior guy, high motor guy, plays with a lot of power, but he showed some speed as well.
Yeah.
Was a little bit stiff. I'm not sure he's like a top end guy, but if you could get him in, day 3, I don't know if that's realistic, but if you could get him day 3, I think that's a pretty interesting addition.
He also has his teammate Nash Hutmacher from Nebraska as well. That's in that late day 3 bucket. But I do like Ty. Someone compared him to Adam Carricker from Nebraska that spent a lot of time in the league with the Rams. Was also with the Commanders for some time with their prior name. But that's a player that I think is just a physical type of floor player. He'll also be a guy that's, in the core 4 special teams type of units. Just a guy that you're going to draft on day 3, just a physical football player that not going to be a pass rusher, a guy that's going to, stack and shed guards and centers. Just a fundamentally good football player, which I feel like, guys, really goes underrated in parts of this class, or really every year as far as we look at 40s, we look at verts, we look at broads. Are you a good football player, and can you compete at the highest level? A guy like Ty Robinson is that type of player.
A guy that didn't really impress me today, that I was excited to hear from, was Savion Williams.
Yeah.
It was
lethargic.
Yeah, did not seem like he wanted to be there.
Yeah.
Did not seem like he really wanted to answer any question. Just kind of like for a guy that has off the chart athleticism, I think in the conversation to maybe have one of the freakiest combines.
Yeah.
If he does all the things. I can't imagine him impressing any team in an interview.
Yeah, I agree, and that's at the top what we talked about. That's a big thing for teams. Can you impress guys when you sit down? And really, for his perspective, I know the Steelers have showed interest in him, not at the back end of day 1, but specifically in him. And can you sit in front of Mike Tomlin and say, hey, look, I'm a player that I deserve to be drafted into this Pittsburgh Steelers organization and fit that culture of player that you want? And look, last year they drafted Roman Wilson, an extremely high character guy. Peyton Wilson as well. Guys that are leaders. And guys that want to be there and hone their craft. I don't want to sit here and say anything about Savion Williams as far as from a character perspective, but you're right. If you want to be here, it didn't look like it today. It didn't look like it.
Yeah. He's a guy that already, I think, was challenged in the fact you don't know how you're going to use him necessarily. He's another hybrid. And I asked him, what positions have teams asked you, talk to you about playing? And, he said receiver, running back, anyway, it was he's a guy I really want to like, and I did not leave feeling that way.
A receiver I liked today was Ricky White. I thought, he's a guy that transferred into, became a captain. He talked about how somebody asked him, how do you do that when you just move into a new team? How do you become a captain like that? And he talked about buying into the culture, and he was talking about his special teams play, and he blocks punts, and so he's a receiver I really like. That's what I gravitated towards. But then, he's kind of a complete package, and the character stuff seemed to really show through in his interview.
So glad you mentioned his name. I think he's one of the more underrated receivers in this class. We get to the late portions of the 3rd round, and Ricky White comes off the board. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we hear his name. He is nuanced. The separation always translates. As you mentioned, just a guy that gets it as far as shoulders up. He's going to be someone that continues to work. Great hands. He's also a guy that's talked about his blocking ability in the past. That's a guy that is just does the little things well, but also that it opens up opportunities for others.
And the concern with him is he's a little thin, and so but he's talking about blocking, he's talking about special teams
Correct.
and all this stuff. So like he's going to work.
Yes.
Yeah, speaking about blocking at receiver, talk to Jack Besh. He has not met with the Seahawks, and I'm kind of curious. So they've met with Jalen Noel, haven't met with Jack Besh. Like in terms of types of receivers that they are meeting with, I would have thought it would have been a Jack Besh type. I think they might think they have Jake Bobo, who is a Jack Besh type. Obviously, it's a very impressive guy.
Yeah.
Listen to him. I also talked to Tez Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
I love Tez Johnson.
100% agree.
I mean, he said a couple times, like, if someone asked how he thinks he's going to run the 40, he's like, you better not blink, you might miss it.
Yeah.
I just think that guy has a better chance to end up being a player that people wish they would have drafted earlier than a player that they regret drafting.
I was a big supporter of Tank Dell coming out of Houston, and everybody talks about he's too small, he's too light. Just turn on the tape. Every single player that Tez Johnson's faced, he's at the Senior Bowl. Guys couldn't cover him in one-on-one scenarios. I mentioned Ricky White with the separation that translates. Tez Johnson fundamentally is a very good football player, and I think he's going to have a lot of success wherever he ends up in whatever offense, because I think he can line inside, he can line outside. He's a guy that also is going to get touches as from a designated perspective. He's going to be an extension of the ground game. He's going to run fast tomorrow. He may be a guy that challenges Arian Smith, the Isaiah Bonds of the world, the fastest 40 here in Indy. I'm right there with you. I like Tez Johnson a lot. Just draft him and put it on your offense. He's going to make a lot of plays.
The challenge I have, like the Tank Dell comps make sense. The challenge is Tank Dell has had trouble staying healthy.
Yes, he has.
So, like, is it a good thing? Like, is Tank Dell a good comp? Like, you're happy with that? Or Tank Dell, like, a cautionary tale?
I think that's an outstanding comp. I would take that any day of the week. You know, with Tank Dell's injury, that's unfortunate what happened in the end zone, which is, you know, obviously praying for Tank out there, good friend of Tank's. But I think when you look at Tez and what he can do as far as that body type, you know, there were a lot of people that were doubters in Devonta Smith. There were a lot of doubters in the past, even with initial Marvin Harrison, or what Tyler Lockett could do. I just look at the player and just as far as what works in today's game as far as separation in man, that's a nightmare to cover in man. And good luck if you want to do that as a defensive coordinator.
Who are we going to see today testing? Tight ends?
Tight ends, DBs.
Tight ends
you
and
know,
DBs.
we're not going to see Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Travis Hunter. Again, I wish, guys, we could go to the Combine every year and say everyone's coming here to compete. And that's what Pat Bryant from Illinois said, who, by the way, I loved his interview. And he said, I'm not going to Indy to just show up and do interviews. I'm coming here to compete and to prove to teams who I am, as a big physical kid as well. But we're going to see the DBs and tight ends today, who shows up, who competes. We'll see who does it. But there's a lot of good players that will be on the field today.
Nick Amanawari.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Said he's going to do 4-3.
Says he's going to do 4-3.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
225 pounds at 4'3" would be impressive.
He runs 4.3. He runs 4.3. He doesn't get out of the top 20 picks.
Well, and
I don't see it.
that's one of the things. I mean, he's confirmed to have met with the Seahawks.
Yes.
He played for Chancellor's coach, who spent a lot of time comparing the two. We know what Mike McDonald does with safeties. I had not considered him a first-round option for them, but especially, you know, if you test like that, he becomes that. If they trade back into the 20s, late 20s, I think he becomes that even if he's a 4-4 guy. So he's one of the guys that has jumped up in my list for the Seahawks relative to what I would have expected.
Yeah, another guy that looks the part, plays the part, right? The range of the position, to be able to go sideline to sideline, number to number, also come downhill and trigger, I think is a big thing with the safeties nowadays, because every offense across football, receivers, running backs, you want to force DBs to tackle, right? Every offense around football wants to force teams to play inside out. What I mean by that is they want to force linebackers to cover, they want to force DBs to tackle. And when you have a player like Nick Amanawari to come downhill to the second level or flip your hips and go and cover that receiver on the outside on a 9 route, It's a unique type of player to where you're starting the conversations of the Derwin Jameses, the Kyle Hamiltons. I'm not making the comparison or even the Cam Chancellors of the world.
Yeah.
So I know people out there are familiar with LOB. Don't need to go there. But that's the type of player that every defensive coordinator would love to have in their defensive scheme.
Well, it's interesting. He has background as a corner,
Yes.
right? And that's a big corner. So, he's probably the guy I'm most interested in seeing today. Trying to think who else.
Is Will Johnson running today?
I don't believe so.
I don't think he is.
What about Terrence Ferguson? Do you know if he's going to run?
He is running.
I'm
he
really
is,
curious about his 40 time.
He's going to run well.
I think he can make himself some money today because I think a lot of people think he's a maybe mid-day 3 kind of guy.
Yeah.
I think he could push himself maybe into the back half of day 2 if he runs well.
I agree, and even in Mobile, heading down there was the conversation of the tight end 3 conversation, right? And it was Harold Finn and Mason Taylor, Elijah Arroyo for me, tight end 3 in this class. But for a guy like Terrence, where you come up here and again compete, I wanted to see guys compete here in Indianapolis. Terrence is absolutely a guy that can showcase well in these drills, and he said he's going to run fast. What that means for him is that 4.6, is that high 4.5s. That's where I have him in this bucket, but I think he is someone that's going to move his way up as this process continues.
Yeah, I think if he's in the 4.5s, I think he puts himself in a different category than most people would expect from him.
He's a good football player.
All right. Have we missed anything else?
I got one more for you. Trey Harris. I talked to him today. Really polished. Really got another guy. Had his head screwed on right. It seems like super productive. 4 straight years of 900 or more yards. Curious what your thoughts are on him.
This is the fun part of the process. It really is because you get to know these guys.
Yeah.
I want dogs on my roster. If I'm a GM, I want guys I know that puts on a helmet and gets after people. I don't care offense, defense. I don't care if you're a starter or face of the franchise or a role player. Drafting Trey Harris, you're going to get a competitor on the outside that also has a projection for me to be a high-level wide receiver too. In an NFL offense. So I completely agree with you. I really enjoyed Trey Harris, not only at Ole Miss specifically this year with the players around him, the projectability of his game to win at all 3 levels, tough as nails, goes up and attacks the football, does a lot of things well, and just, again, the mental makeup of him as a young man is someone that's going to compete his tail off for wherever he finds himself.
Ryan, appreciate it, dude.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We'll see you again.
Great meeting. Thanks so much, you too.
And we will let you run out.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll finish up the show, and we'll see you very soon. Don't forget that. You're going to need that.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Ryan. So, sorry for the audio issues. Not sure exactly why that didn't work. I tested ahead of time, but apparently my testing was flawed. So let me just check see super chats before we get out of here. Bryce Coots has given 10 Hawk Blogger memberships. Bryce, thank you so much. You are always doing that, and it's really, really appreciated. So hopefully you guys were able to see or hear most of that. And if not, patreon.com/hawkblogger, I will post the audio version and I will equalize all the audio. Hopefully that'll boost a little bit of it for that purpose. The other thing that people are asking about DK, because I tweeted about this. Look, I get it. I will admit, I get a little annoyed when people put out rumors that feel like clickbait. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. And I have put out prior in the past few months the question, not the rumor, but the question: are the Seahawks going to move on from DK Metcalf? We have heard over and over and over again from John Schneider, Mike McDonald, everybody, like Kubiak, everyone related. He is central to what they're doing here. So anyone that is sharing news that teams are talking about DK Metcalf, honestly, I just think it's somewhat responsible. So that's why I just wanted to put out there that from my perspective, I'm not reporting that this is sourced with anything beyond what all of us have heard in those press conferences. He's not going anywhere. So even if I think maybe that he should, I'm not saying I do, but this is just the reality of I think where things stand. I mean, is there anything that you see that is a sliver of daylight there?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, teams talking to teams about players is, I think we should assume that every team is
talking
having
about
these
every
conversations, right? And especially when, for whatever reason, there has been all this buzz about, hey, is DK going to stay in Seattle for long term? Yeah, teams probably checked in with Seattle, and I'm kind of with you. I think they probably got to how many? Is it 3 first-round picks, 4 first-round picks?
Yeah.
That's kind of probably where the conversation ended. So if there's reports of anything beyond teams checking on like the availability of a player, that's interesting to me. But if it's just somebody giving John a phone call, like I think that's probably just normal day-to-day business stuff. So,
I mean, the reality is, it's not a great receiver class. It's not a great receiver free agent group. Teams are going to call about DK. You're going to hear about offers for DK. I don't think any matters. Like, they're not going to offer enough for the Seahawks to do something. And the reality is, the Seahawks are going to meet with Geno Smith's agent today. John Schneider said he's going to find out today kind of what they think his value is. And John was very transparent. Like, they hope to get an extension done. They're here. That's their focus right now. I think Ernest Jones is their next focus after that. And then from there, do they do DK before the league year? I don't know. Last time they extended DK Metcalf was in June. Last time they extended, Geno Smith was March. There's an order to these things. If they need the cap space, maybe. But I'm not sitting here assuming that they're going to get the DK Metcalf deal done right away. And that doesn't mean that I think they're taking a bunch of offers either.
There is big trade news that I don't think we've talked about, though.
Tell us.
Somebody on the Seahawks is on the move. It broke. Did we talk about this yesterday? The Rayshon Jenkins news?
I talked about it last night, but yes.
All right.
What you add your 2 cents on that?
No, I think it's pretty obvious that like they're done.
Yeah.
They're going to go their separate ways, and now it's just a question of exactly how that breaks down. But I thought that was interesting. You don't always hear like lower tier starter types getting requesting trades or that any of that kind of stuff. So. But not a surprise. Like we talked about this yesterday with safeties, that like there's an opportunity here for Seattle to draft somebody and give a safety some snaps. So,
were there any of the players you watched yesterday, other than the ones we've talked about, that kind of got your attention? Anyone impressed you?
Like from the drills perspective, or
yeah, the drills.
Who's the dude out of Minnesota? Jaw Joyner.
Jaw Joyner.
Yeah, would he run like a 4.6?
Yeah. I think maybe even a little bit less than that. He might have gotten to 4.5.
Did he get in it? Yeah,
maybe.
So that was impressive. No, I mean there's Stewart, there's James Pierce, obviously.
You had such a great time on him.
My unofficial times, man, they were. I think they might have been more accurate, but
Nathan's first unofficial 40 time was for James Pierce, and it was a 3.7,
right,
which was amazing.
Jadon Blue's got nothing on him.
And then the one you did after that, I think, was for Shamar Stewart, and it was a 0.00, which is maybe the fastest possible 40 time.
I don't think you can go faster than 0.
No, I don't think so.
Might not have hit the button. So yeah, I was having a great time with that.
So Nathan is not probably going to move from here into scouting.
I thought Fadil Diggs running a 4.57. That was good for him. I'm trying to remember some of the 10-yard splits because there was a couple guys.
I was hoping Jeffrey Basso would be a little faster than 4.63.
Yeah.
I like him, but I thought that was a little bit disappointing. Chris Paul was also at 4.63 linebacker. I thought Jordan Birch, his first run was not good, but I think 4.67 was good for him. I'm kind of curious what his splits were, if we've got access to that yet.
I remember right, he had a really good.
He had a 1.66 10-yard split.
Not bad.
I don't know if he's done any of the other jumping or any of the other stuff. It doesn't look like it. But he's a guy I've been interested in. I was not impressed with his interview, so we'll see about that.
Landon Jackson did all right for himself. He had the nice vert, and then 4.68's fine for him. I think maybe you're hoping a little bit more, but he's such a big dude.
Yeah, looking through the list of other guys, and we talked about Ty Robinson at 4.83 for a defensive tackle is flying. Darius Alexander did break 5 at 4.95. Derek Harmon did the same thing. I think Derek Harmon had a nice day. Guys that maybe didn't help themselves, I didn't think J.J. Pegues had the best day. I thought he stood out a little bit more on the offensive drills than the defensive.
He looked good in those offensive drills.
Right?
At the fullback, yeah.
He moves pretty well.
He moves really well. We got that one where they ran a counter and then he slips down in the flat and caught the ball and zipped upfield he was moving.
And then we did not stay. I watched some of the tight end or the linebacker drills on TV. I didn't stay for those. Demetrius.
I'm so happy that Jahad Campbell's doing awesome here.
Yeah, why is that?
He was just one of the first guys I watched, and I was immediately like, "Oh,
he's really good.
So fun."
He's really good. But yeah, Landon Jackson having the highest vert, I don't think was on anybody's a bingo card. So 40.5 inches for a man that size is really, really impressive.
And I had to ask this too because I didn't know how it worked. He is not benefited, like his height doesn't benefit him in that.
No.
It's height neutral.
If people are wondering how that works, they stand up to the little things that they knock, and they reach their arm up, and they knock that across. So they move that whole sit over, and then they jump, and however many they hit from there is where they measure from. So top of your arm when you're standing, and so I was joking with Nathan, like there's the, kind of like, alligator arm thing you probably try to do, but that's a legit 40.5 inches for him. And the players went wild when he did it. So I think those are the guys that kind of stood out. Knowing that, James Pierce obviously had a really fast time. I think that's probably about it. So,
what does Raku do? Can we look at Raku real quick?
Yeah.
After you just close that.
Close it. Here we go. This is on broad jump. I might have missed him already.
No, he was down in the 911, something like that.
There he is, 911. Donovan Ezraku from Boston College, edge player.
His 40 was...
He didn't run the 40. Yeah, that was one of the things that was interesting. He did vert. He had 35.5 inch vert, 911 broad, 694 3-cone shuttle.
Yeah, those agility numbers are pretty good, not surprising for him. He's so interesting. He's another guy that's just incredibly fun to watch, but then, he's not big. And so, how is that going to translate? Can you on the enough for him to do his thing? Because I think, the skill set is there for him. Just finding the playing time is going to be maybe tough for him.
Yeah, I'm watching Jahad Campbell do his drills behind you here, and 4.52 at his size, and everything about how he plays the game. He's just first round linebacker. Got to be the first off the board. He to me is like a Raven. Like I don't know that they're gonna pick him, but he just screams to me Raven.
Yeah.
Sure. So maybe that means he's a Seahawk now. I really think they're going to stick with what's already working there. So I'm not convinced an off-ball linebacker is high on their list of where they're going to go, especially early in the draft. All right, dude. We'll wrap there. We'll probably have some other stuff later today. We'll obviously be at the testing. We'll talk about stuff there. I found out that we're not allowed to record video in the stadium. So
they broke all kinds of rules yesterday.
I was like, I'm surprised I still exist in Indianapolis. They haven't kicked me out of here. So I have not posted any of that. I will not post any of that, unfortunately. But I will be able to watch it myself whenever I feel like it. Yeah. So there's that. Until we see you guys next time, take care. We'll get the audio posted this soon. Hopefully that helps on hearing what Ryan Fowler said. Until next time, give the show a like, click subscribe. We will see you all soon. I've got a lot of videos. I think I've got like 35 or more. We've got 35 or more player interviews up there. There's a playlist for player interviews, so you can go and watch all of those. It's members first, so you have to be a club level or higher to be watching the ones that we posted today. They become available for everybody later, so keep an eye on that. And then patreon.com/hawkblogger. I've been posting audio interviews as well this morning. Those are up there, so check those out as well. Thank you all. We'll see you very soon. Until then, this has been episode 340 of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care.